Welcome to the OFX podcast. I'm Dave Claxton, and along with me, as always, is Calgary's newest cataclysmic climber, Bethany McChesney.
Hi.
So, first question is real easy. How's the trip?
Oh, I had a great time. So yeah, we went out to Canmore, just about an hour outside of Calgary for 5 days. And the trip was for my friend's birthday. And so I was kind of going with a group of girls who I knew wouldn't exactly be up for all the things I would. So I contacted Ariel, who's out there, because I couldn't go out to Canmore and not do some big mountains and some rock climbing. So yeah, I had a few excursions with Ariel and I had a really good time. So I have never been out to that part of Canada to other than I've been to Red Deer, I've been to Edmonton, but I've never been to the mountains there and Banff and Canmore. And wow, it is so unlike anywhere I've ever been. And and I've never hiked up. So now I understand a lot better when people from out west kind of laugh at our Blue Mountain
Oh, yeah.
in Ontario. Like, okay, I really understand now. Yeah, so Ariel brought me up what was her first big summit when she moved out there, Mount Baldy. And I realized, so I am afraid of heights, and I've hiked some big mountains, but I've never been on a mountain like this where your summit, you're like scrambling and on each side is just sheer drop offs. And I don't know if it's lack of exposure to this, but I was like, nope, I'm not going across this section. And I just had a little bit of panic. But the group that I was with was so sweet about it. And they were like, oh, this happens to people all the time. Like if you've never been on big mountains like this, and they made me feel a lot better about it. But wow, I never been more regretful of my fear of heights because I wanted to summit it so bad. And they came like close just to the like really close to the top. But there was a section where I was like, if I trip, I'm dead. I just couldn't wrap my head around it. But it's so amazing though, how comfortable people get who do this all the time. And Ariel was like, yeah, I guess I kind of forgot how scary this can be your first time. And I'm like, yeah, like if you've never been in mountains like that, where the edges, like both sides are just drop offs. And I've never done anything like that before. And I wasn't expecting even to react the way I do the way I did to that height, but wow, it was pretty sketchy, but I don't regret it. Like I want to get back out there and do a little bit more just to gain more exposure to big mountains like that and just to feel more comfortable. And then also in the summer when there's not ice on it, so there's not that extra slip factor. And yeah, but it was so beautiful. It's just amazing what we have in our country. That yeah, I guess I just haven't actually taken the opportunity to get out there and see it.
I've only been out there a couple times for work, and just staying in Vancouver, just seeing the mountains for me was kind of crazy. But then like you've raced at Big Bear and stuff, right? So
Yeah.
or was it Big Bear or Tahoe? Sorry, Tahoe.
Yeah.
And big mountainous race and stuff, but it's not the same, is it?
No, it's not. And it's so different. Like I love mountain races and like just the magnitude of the mountains. Like I love it. And I've hiked up big mountains before, but they're hikes. It's so different. Like I've done like Kilimanjaro in Africa, I've done Adam's Peak in Sri Lanka, but when you're hiking and you're just hiking, it's so different than when you're hiking along an edge where like one step this way and it's hundreds of feet drop off. That's where it gets, and this side is the same and you're in this narrow path where like, and so I was doing a fair bit of crawling. I couldn't stand up. So, because I was just like, I can't stand up. I'm so afraid like some big wind is gonna blow me off the side. And yeah, it's just so different than when the mountain races where like hiking up a mountain where there's no risk of like falling off a cliff is so different than what we were doing. So
How bad did Ariel mock you?
she was so sweet. If she
I
mocked me, I would have cried in an instant.
See, I would have waited till we were back down, and then I would have mocked you unmercifully until my throat was
I know
full.
you would have, Dave. You would have. She was really sweet about it. I think she could tell too how disappointed I was. Like I wanted to be able to do it, but I just couldn't wrap my head around it. I couldn't do it. So she was really sweet about it, thankfully, because if she wasn't, I definitely would have cried.
It's funny how you
She
say
did say
that.
at one point, it's okay if you cry. It will make you feel better.
It's funny how you say you went out there with like your buddies, and you're like, well, I have to abandon them to do stuff I want to do because I think like I couldn't go on a trip with a lot of my friends
Yeah.
previous to like OCR and stuff because I wouldn't want to do anything they wouldn't want to do, and they wouldn't want to do anything I wouldn't want to do. So I thought it was you did well. You managed to combine the two.
Yeah, so my friends were really good about it too. I always invited them and then I explained to them what I was doing and they always politely declined, but and then we'd meet up after. So I'd kind of go out, I'd do my thing, I'd come back. So I did a good hike every day that I was there and it was just so beautiful. And then it's sad when you come back and I'm back here in small town in Ontario and not seeing the mountains all around. It just yeah, I miss it already. And I definitely have to get back in the summertime. Yeah, and then we spent a day or an afternoon too at the Calgary Climbing Center, which is also a beautiful facility. And that kind of heights I can handle. I'm attached to a rope. I've done a lot of that. It's so different for me. I started rock climbing actually as a way to try to get over my fear of heights. And so I'm completely comfortable when I'm attached to a rope. But yeah, that was just a really new experience for me. But it was also cool. So when I was out there, I realized, so I was getting there on the day Mick and Austin were leaving from
Yeah.
Canmore. And I was like, we should have really coordinated something because that would have been really cool, like a mini Spartan training camp. So what Austin did was really amazing. I don't know if you saw this, and I understand a lot better now how incredible it is what he did. But so for his 30th birthday, he did the Canmore Quad, which is 4 summits, 4 big mountains outside of Canmore, but you run between each of them. So you run up one, down, and then you run to the next one, up, down, and you cross all of Canmore, go to the other side, up one, down, up one, down. And he did it in the winter. So it was 57 kilometers total with 5,000 meters of vertical. And so it took him, it was 14 hours.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's insane. But that's
Yeah.
awesome. Austin
And
does.
he did 30 push-ups on each summit for his 30th birthday.
He's very underrated. I think he's going to that Go Ruck Games, and I really look forward to seeing
Yeah.
how he's going to do.
Yeah.
So did I tell you my issue with the Go Ruck Games?
What?
It's not actually an issue. Actually, I like the idea. I think it's gonna be great, but I'm gonna be in Florida while it's on. But there's no way where I can time it to go across to see it because I'll be in like the Tampa area and it's in Jacksonville.
Oh,
I'll be in the
shoot.
right state, but there's no way I can make it work to do it, which is kind of disappointing, but oh well. But it'll be cool. Yeah, I would see. I'd like to say I would love to go out and run those mountains and stuff like that. So, but it would be a lie because it's not true. I would like to see them. I wouldn't mind maybe doing a hike or something like that. So I'm not gonna lie. So I would like to want to go out and run those mountains, but I don't.
You can still hike pretty high on them and get a really like the views are still amazing, even if you don't summit them.
Mhm. Well, I would see. I'd have no problem. I'd be all right with something. I don't have a fear of heights. I'm great with that. But it's the running stuff. I wouldn't want to run that far. Like when he said 53 kilometers up and down, up and down. I'm like, yeah, I'm not into that. No way.
Well, I think one summit would be around like 7 or 8K up and down.
See that I would do.
Yeah.
And I look and I saw like the videos, especially of Mick and Austin, and they're running and stuff. No two people look like they're having more fun running than they do.
I know.
And I've asked Mick, I'm like, I don't get it.
And they run along sections where I would be crawling because I'd be so scared.
Yeah, like they do like that ridge running, right along the top.
I can't do that.
I think that part I would actually try. That part I'd be down with that. I think I'd do that. But they look like they have so much fun. It's crazy. I mean, even Mick, when he runs those things, he's got his arms out like a 6-year-old, just
Yeah, loving life.
That's awesome. So a couple of things while you were gone happened. Though we're gonna talk Spartan Games later on with our guests. We're not even gonna mention that right yet. So we'll get into that later. Very important thing. Brendan Neely won some crazy drink of beer and run up Blue Mountain.
Oh my gosh. Was that what it was? I saw a start line clip and that's it. I assumed it was like a snow beer mile.
No, so what it was you chug a beer and then 500 meters up the hill. So this is the interesting part. He didn't know about it till like right before. Mm-hmm. By the way, we're eventually going to have Brendan on, but Brendan's internet sucks. And we tried once and we're working on it. But yeah. So yeah, he didn't know about it till right before because he mentioned it to me. He's like, yeah, I'm going out here today. And I'm like, dude, I would have went. I would give it a try. Like that would have been fun. But yeah, anyway, he said, yeah, just spur of the moment, and off I go. And off we went, and he won, and he got like $500 from Blue, like a gift thing from Blue, a Yeti cooler, a Coors package. It pays better than any OCR race, and it was just
it was a Red Bull sponsored event though, wasn't it?
It was sponsored by Coors, mostly by Coors Light.
Oh, I thought the blow up thing was a Red Bull.
It was, but I don't know if they had a big hand in it or if they just had that thing. He said predominantly it was sponsored by Molson and Coors Light. So
that's so you just one beer.
Yeah, just one beer and up you go.
500 meters. Wow, that sounds so fun.
Oh, in snowboard boots.
Oh, okay.
So it does sound like a good time. I told him if they do it again, you gotta let me know. I'm gonna try that too. I'll be in. But I got to learn his shotgunning technique. Like he used the thumb shotgun thing.
Oh, to allow air in?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm a renowned terrible beer chugger, and so I need help. I need coaching. But
you have to train Dave, just like everything else.
Well, I asked him if he was releasing a online coaching program for that event, and he says he will, but it's very expensive. So keep your eyes open. Again, there was a Hyrox one, but we'll talk about that with our guest. Terra Jackson's our guest. She does Hyrox and stuff, if you don't know. Anyway, she'll be on later on. There was a DECA though, and that was the DECA in Colorado. Mm-hmm. Right. Were you gone for that one, or were you back in time? No, yeah.
I was gone.
Okay. So I don't know. Did you get a chance to see any of it or check it out?
No, I didn't.
It was really good. Again, super fast. Oh, sorry, wasn't the DECA in Colorado? Was that the other one? It was DECA SoCal. Sorry, DECA SoCal. The biggest thing, Cole Schwartz put in a great race. Jack Bauer got a third place, put in a good time. He's in the top 12 now.
Nice.
Two things about those guys, very important. They did full extension on their lunges, and they're the only people doing any kind of DECA that I've seen do that.
Wow.
So, big mistake on their part because it's not necessary. But there's a guy, and both Jack told me about him and Yancey told me about him, and I gotta look it back up on Instagram here. Who apparently, I gotta look up his name. He is a former sub 4 minute mile runner.
Uh-huh. Wow.
And has put on some muscle. And now he's getting into the stuff. He's going to be doing Hyrox in Dallas, I believe. So he's like 5'10", 190, and a former sub 4 minute miler. He ended up coming second. He beat Jack. He wasn't even in the first wave. He was in the next wave. And he beat Jack, and they talked to him. And I can't even say his name anyway. I can't say his name.
So he was second there?
He was second place. Anass. That's his first name. Anas?
Yeah, sounds good.
Sounds good. All right. Anyway, yeah, so he looks like he could be quite a force to be reckoned with. I'm really interested to see how he does at Hyrox.
Yeah.
Because he looks like he's got the tools to do it anyway, the raw tools. So definitely, and that was his first DECA fit ever or anything like that as well. First time he's done anything like that. So
wow.
he could be a real force. And plus, Jack City's a real nice guy, so that's important. So we're gonna be watching
Nice.
out for him.
Yeah.
And, oh, and he'll be at the next DECA in LA as well.
Oh, cool. So keep your eyes out for this guy.
Yes, absolutely. He'll be very one to watch for sure. And then we had a discussion at work. And I wanted to ask you this because you are a fitness expert. Okay, so we're a bunch of guys. We're all sitting around work and we're talking. And the question comes up, how many pull-ups can you do? You know, because, you know, you're macho and you got to be manly and stuff like this. So, well, the first question was, what's harder, pull up, a body weight dip, or a push up? And I was surprised that it varied depending on the person.
Uh-huh.
So for you, what is harder?
Well, I would say right now, a
Yeah.
body weight dip is harder than a pull-up, but I train pull-ups all the time.
So that's what got me, is because my initial response was, well, pull-ups harder. But at the same time, then I started thinking, I can do about the same amount of dips and pull-ups. So I'm like, I'm pretty on average. The other guys was different, vary, but you know, but that was just kind of one of those things through out there. Like, it really kind of piqued me. I'm like,
I probably could do the same of both, but I find body weight dips rather uncomfortable. Like I also find that range in the shoulder to be really difficult for a lot of people. Yeah, and I mean, if you train pulls, like your back muscles could potentially be a lot stronger, right? So
and I think that might have a lot to do as well with the kind of people that we deal with, because we deal with OCR people,
yeah,
and they're
it's
all
pulling,
all pulling, whereas a lot of the rest of the population is all pushing.
right?
Right. And a lot of gym goers, right? They're doing bench press and they're doing push-ups and they're doing
All
something.
of the chest,
Yeah. Stronger chest. So I thought that was interesting. But then that evolved to, how many pull-ups can you do? How many dips can you do? How many push-ups can you do? And the hard part became, with pull-ups, you got to define when you're done one set. Same with the push-ups and the thing. So it's difficult. How do you define it?
Can you take a break and shake out your arms?
I don't know. I'm asking you. So when somebody asks you how many pull-ups you can do, because I mean, we see, and we'll talk again Spartan Games later, but you see Ryan Atkins, and I've seen Jesse Graff do this, where they do like 20 pull-ups and then like shake out and shake out. And they'll be on the bar. They might do 40 pull-ups, but they'll be on the bar for 5 minutes.
Right.
So is it as long as you don't come off the bar? Is it as long as you don't release any hands? Is there a certain amount of pause in between?
Yeah, so with the pausing, then now you're looking at people with really good grip strength would get higher numbers, just because they can. I mean, if you can hang on the bar for a minute in between your reps of pull-ups,
yeah,
you'll get a couple more in.
So I don't think that should count. I think it should be like, you know, I think probably the best way to do it is, and again, dips are the same way. Push-ups are even more complicated, but dips are the same way, right? You could just sit there and lock out.
Yeah.
And recover your triceps and your chest. But I think it should be the military way. And I assume it's the military way, where you go on a count. So it's like 1
2 minutes. Oh, you had on a metronome.
Yeah. I think that's the way it should be done, because that's only even, playing field.
And then the metronome is set based on your arm length.
Well, I don't know. Could be like 3 seconds, 4 seconds per pull-up, whatever.
Okay.
I think something like that would work, because I'm like, yeah, when I saw, and even my son, Jeff's, his girlfriend, Samir, she can do the same thing. She can do like 38, 40 pull-ups, but she hangs on the bar forever.
Right.
And does the shakeout. I'm like, I think that's cheating.
Yeah. I guess when I think of like, when someone asks me how many I can do, it's how many I can do unbroken without rest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how much is rest? What counts as rest in between? It's like 10 seconds rest? No rest? But I mean, it's 2 seconds rest.
Right. I get I know.
I'm the same. I kind of have my own idea, right? Like, I figure, to me, if I'm resting for more than like 5 seconds between the reps, that's too much. But I don't know. But then the push-ups, how many push-ups can you do? Well, I don't know, man. I could do push-ups for days if you let plank out for a minute and wait for a bit, and I can bang out 5 more or whatever. So I have no idea how to do push-ups. Again, I think it should be just a thought process.
Yeah. I also like how many can you do in 2 minutes?
That's perfect.
Yeah.
But the average person doesn't know that. And by the way, if you don't train a lot of pull-ups and you think you can do 20, no, you can't. You're wrong. Every guy I talk to, I do 20 pull-ups. No, you can't. Just can't.
I agree. Yeah, I agree. I know a lot of fit guys and they'll come into the gym, and if they don't train, if they can come close to over 5 or 6, I'm shocked.
Oh yeah.
And generally fit guys, but if they don't train it.
And I'm talking real pull-ups, like full extension, none of that.
Right.
None of that pulse crap. I mean, that's got its place and purpose.
Kipping. Yeah.
I don't mind kipping pull-ups, but that's not what I'm at. You do pull-ups, proper pull-ups. So you can't do it. You're lying. You're all wrong. You're full of shit. It's too much ego.
Yeah.
All right. Well, enough banter. So what we'll do is we'll shoot on and we'll bring on our guest, the one and only Terra Jackson.
Hey, what's up?
There you are.
Hello.
How's it going?
Oh, there you go. Now you're back.
Oh, there we go. Yay, everybody's here.
Nice shirt.
Very tech challenged with these Zoom meetings. I think I've done like way more of them in like the last like month though. I like really avoided them at the beginning of COVID. And like I'm like, yes, I didn't have to use technology, and now I've been doing a lot.
But you're like a superstar now, so oh, we lost Bethany's camera. That's all right. She'll be back. Yeah, you're like a superstar now, so everyone needs to talk to you.
Hardly, but I've more requests for like people doing like video, like remote coaching.
Oh,
I have to like talk with people, not in person. I love talking to people, but the Zoom is not as weird as I thought it would be, but it's.
So were you trained someone through a Zoom call?
No, I do like the online programming, and then I'll have like a meeting with them to like discuss like any questions they might have about the written program.
Oh,
no.
Okay.
I tried to do like a few like actual personal training sessions on Zoom, and it wasn't terrible, but it definitely isn't like, it's very hard to like, you get really good at verbal cues.
Yeah.
But I like to have like my hands on people in not like a weird way.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I do too. I get it.
sometimes it helps to like actually be in person.
Yeah.
I've done so many of these now that I've gotten to the point where talking on the phone seems weird.
Really?
Yeah. So like if I'm in the car and it's not so bad because at least I'm distracted by the road. But if I'm just talking on the phone in the house, I'm like, I don't know what to look at.
Oh, talking on the phone's super weird. Like millennials don't do that. Are you a millennial? Like,
no, I'm like a Gen X, man. I'm old.
Oh, okay. I don't know. I mean,
I had rotary phones.
Oh, pretty old. I think like you could be like 40 and still be a millennial.
No.
Really?
No.
I think so. Like 80. I think like 80 is still considered a millennial.
Okay. Well, I'm like 75, so I'm still out of there. Beth, you got to be pretty close then.
An X.
Well, I'm an 85 birthday.
Oh yeah, you're
totally millennial.
Yeah.
I do find there's a shift now, though, in people my age starting to make phone calls. I'm kind of fed up with texting.
Oh, I don't know what it is. I can't hear very well on the phone, and I don't think my accent always like trend. Like people don't understand me very well on the phone, so I have to go, huh, a lot. And after a while, I'm just like, okay, like I don't know what you said, but I'm just gonna like. See, I can't even nod when I'm on the phone. Like in person, if I don't understand what somebody says, after like the second time, I'm just like, yep. having people repeat themselves. Cause I think it's from working in a gym for so long. Like the music is always like super loud. So if there's any kind of like background noise, like I can't hear very well at all. So who needs your hearing anyways? It's overrated. As long as I can still run.
And if you're in a relationship, then sometimes hearing is really not needed.
Oh, it's perfect. You know, like I can, what is it called? Selective hearing.
Selective.
Exactly.
I have my clients are like of the Medicare age. So like I have one guy, he has like hearing aids. And I think like sometimes if he doesn't want to talk, like he turns them down. So I like incessantly talk. I like don't like it when it's quiet. So I'll just like jabber on, and I think he's like quiet.
Are you like the hyper motivator when you're training people in person? Are you like chanting, various inspiring slogans? What's that?
It's not like a Jillian Michaels. I'm telling you, most of my clients are like over 70, so they're not like they're like trying to be more mobile and healthy. They're not like trying to get the work out of their life. So like 50% of my job is just like chatting and therapy and like fun, and then the other half we do like some moving and stuff. It's definitely low key than when you think about like athletes. Athletes are tough, man. They are like your most needy client. Old people just want to be able to like sit down and stand up without pain. And I like that actually. Like I found it way more rewarding for people to like improve their quality of life than to like improve their athletic performance. But I know a lot of people like get into personal training because they want to work with athletes, but they're like they don't listen very well. Most of them. I actually wrote a post today because I had been talking to my physical therapist about how I feel like a lot of people in sport, especially this one, like hybrid and Spartan racing, they're like very emotionally driven with their training. Like it seems to me that they don't really follow much of a plan at all. They're just like either they're race, or they'll be like, oh, I think I'm going to go do like a 3-hour workout today. And oh, I feel good today, so I'm going to do this. But now everything hurts and I'm dying. So I'm going to take like 2 days off, like very like nonsensical style of like training. Whereas I'm pretty regimented. Like I like to have a plan. And I think that training's like way more successful. I mean, it's definitely like I have the, like the FOMO, like I wish I was in Dallas this weekend. Like I'm like watching everybody race and I'm like, oh, well, but I know it's not like necessary for me to go race again, especially after just like racing a couple weeks ago or last week. I don't even know. Like my weeks have like all meshed together. That's grew up and I ran that race.
So why don't we talk about that one first? Is your experience over in the overseas? Was it in Germany? Was it Germany?
It was in the Netherlands. It was in Austria.
In Austria, doing your Hyrox in Netherlands. Lots of pressure to get a really good time. And
less pressure, like, because I feel like when I go into races, I'm really bad about like, oh, well, like I know like Lauren and Rachel, and I know their strengths and I look at their stations and I'm like very like keen in on where I should be in the race. So if I'm not in the vicinity of where I think I should be, like me, it's mentally really hard. But I've never raced like any of those people before. So it's really nice to go into a race where you're like, I really have no idea where I should be in regards to what part of the race I'm in. So I'm just going to go run and like see how it goes. I was hoping for some like really, really fast sleds like Madrid, but I didn't get so lucky. I was very tricked because the warm-up station, I was like, oh my God, if this is the sled, I'm going to have like a 2-minute sled. This is going to be great. And it was definitely faster. Like I think I had like a 40-second PR on like this pull and push. So it was definitely like a difference. And 40 seconds, I guess, is pretty significant in like a 4-minute exercise.
Yeah.
But nothing like if you went back and looked at the times, like it's nothing like a Madrid or least peg or whatever, where you see like several guys under 2 minutes, girls under 2 minutes. Like I've even seen some sleds as fast as like a minute and a half. And I'm like, how's that even possible? Like you're like running with the sled if you're doing a minute and a half. So
you said the sled in the warm-up was different than the one on the thing.
It felt significantly lighter. Like, I don't know if when we went to New York, I also thought that the sled was lighter than Dallas and Chicago. Like, I would compare the sled in Maastricht to the sled in New York. Like in New York, I've never pushed a full length on the sled ever, like even in warm up, like in one go. So during New York, I was able to like push a whole length during the race, but then I think me and Dylan talked about it. I think if the carpet gets wet, like with people sweating on it, so like if you run later in the day, like he did, he said the sled was way harder when he did it in open or pro. I was like, well, you also like ran a whole race before, so maybe it was harder. I don't know. I know he's like superhuman and everything, but that's a pretty intense day to run 2 Hyrox events like 3 hours apart, 4 hours apart,
and win them both on the side there.
Yeah, just casually win both. Basically, get the record pulling me by himself. But that was a lot of fun. We had actually talked about if I didn't stay in the top 15 and if he can't get in the top 15 in Dallas, like doing doubles in Vegas, I can't do both races. There's just no way. I'm just not on that level that he is. It's just like too much to do 2 races in one day.
See there, Beth. There you go. There's your opening. Dylan might need a doubles partner for Vegas.
There you go. Because I'm hoping that in Dallas, so that was one thing about Maastricht. So the sleds were definitely easier, but the biggest difference was the rock zone. The rock zone was the best laid out that I've ever seen in a race. Like New York had a very like small rock zone, but the way it was set up, whenever you came out of the stations, there was a lot of like sharp turns and like you had to go around stuff. Like basically in Maastricht, you just ran in, ran out. It was like not as good as Decafit, like basically no rock zone, but it was very well laid out. It was kind of similar to Orlando. Orlando was weird because they didn't even have like a rocks zone. I guess they just didn't put the timing pads down because obviously you have to run into the stations, but people had like pretty fast times comparatively in Orlando than maybe some of their other times because the way it was laid out was pretty good. Minus like the farmers carries were like up, back, which is slower, but Maastricht was definitely like the best laid out rock zone that I've seen. And I wish they would standardize that. Like, obviously we talked about this last time. Like they should have like a standard distance for the rock zone. And if they have a bigger space, they could still make the rock zone small. They don't have to use the whole space. So they should just have like a standard size for the loop. The loop was not confusing. Like New York, I was very confused. Like we watched the video, we came in, the course was laid out way differently than that was in the video. And I think we maybe talked about Chicago, how the video did not reflect appropriately what you're supposed to do. And I think that's why like Katie and her partner missed a lap in Chicago is because they said something completely different. Like on the video, it was 2 laps and then you had to do like 3, almost 4 laps. So they definitely could do a better job in that. So if they just had a standardized size for the course, pick a location that they could make that, because Decafit does it every time. We talked about this last time. Like Decafit has it very well standardized as far as like the actual run and run in out goes. And you can see it like, if people run, like there's not this like dramatic like change in time from like course to course. Maybe a little bit with the turf and the altitude in Denver, but like if you put people on a course, it's like, it's going to be very similar times. Not like Chicago. I mean, I think if I had to say, I had a really bad race in Chicago, but I would say similar efforts, and I felt like similar from Dallas to Maastricht. So I'd say if I ran that on an American course, I'd run like a low 109, maybe 108 high. And that's why I don't like the time thing, because I definitely think there would be a couple more American girls that would be in the top 15. But it's just that, plus America, they have some terrible rock zones. Like if you've only ran, like I know Chris's and Camilla's time in Chicago would have easily probably been in Maastricht. They would probably have ran like a 105, 106, like because the distance of the rock zone. I know some of the carpets in Chicago are very like lumpy. And I'm trying to figure out what the difference is of the sleds. I think the carpets were definitely a lot more like smooth. I don't know how they do that. But I did notice that the pull was like super smooth. That one almost felt like kind of cheating. Like this pull was super light. Like I'd say from feeling, the sled didn't feel like so much harder, but the pull was definitely like significantly lighter. I don't even think I stepped back that much. I was just like arm pulling it, which is pretty hard to do. Like especially like Chicago sleds, I think were probably some of the heaviest sleds that I mean, I've only done like 4 races, but it was probably heaviest sleds, longest rock zone, and you still had people like going like Alyssa. I mean, I think the top 3 in Chicago would have been the top 3 in Maastricht if they would have ran that course easily. Because you even look at Carl, however you pronounce, like this past weekend, Miriam ran there and she ran like a 7 high.
Yeah.
So I mean, you could say like maybe she's tired from the weekend before. There's not as much competition. But if you look at like the rock zone consistently longer across the board, the sleds consistently longer across the board, like, you know, that was just a slower race. So they got to have like, but I was reading somewhere that like the sled, there's like no, you know how like you have records for like deadlift, whatever. Yeah. They don't do like max sled push because it's very, very hard to standardize. Even like if you do 4 pushes on the sled, maybe the 4th push is not the same as the first push. Like the course you take, the way you hit the carpet, like it could be different. So it's like I just wish they would get rid of the sled and do like a heavy yoke. Maybe we talked about this last time.
We didn't talk about this. I think we chatted a little bit about it through messages, but we never talked about it. But yeah, different options for the sled. So actually, Bethany, we'll throw this because you weren't in on that. If you were to take that sled out, what would you put in there?
Oh, that's a good question.
And I'll tell you what, some of the ones you were saying a yoke carry would be
one.
It's
super easy to standardize. If we list the same way, goes the same amount of distance. They did have that in Green Beret Challenge, and that was tough. But I think it would have to be a very long, like at least 200 meters, or just make it super heavy, like really heavy. Like I think they could do it like the sled, do like 50 meters down, 50 meters back twice.
Yeah.
And just make it like, I don't know, 300 pounds or something, like something crazy heavy. Because I do
done a yoke carry, but are they set? Like, is there a women's height for the yoke? I'm just picturing coming up and I'm so short.
You get a limbo under it.
I'm trying to think on the ones that they had for Green Beret. It was like a bar that you had to like pick up and you carried it on your back. But obviously that wasn't like super heavy because you had to lift it.
Mm-hmm.
The yoke actually comes off the ground. So I guess they could set it at a height that would be fine for people who are like 5 foot or below, and you could just carry higher or lower. But yeah, I'm not sure how they would like do that. I think they just set it up lower and you just have to get under it. Like if you were setting up for a back squat, if you're tall, suck it up, you got to squat and get up under it. I like the medicine all over shoulder movement like they have in Deca Strong and Deca Heavy. But again, like You know, you gotta have judges. Like, it kind of goes off to the side. You're like, yeah.
But for that one, you could do over a bar or over a wall.
Yeah.
Something along that lines, right? And again, something like that, you make it heavy.
Have you seen tactical games? Like how they do throw it over, they go over the bar.
I like that. I saw Corinna's clips of doing that, where you toss the sandbag over and then you go over, and so you're going back and forth. I like that one.
So something like that maybe.
So here's my thing with that. That is such an advantage for tall people.
Yes. Again.
So why don't you have it? You put the ball or bag or whatever over the wall, and then you have a low crawl under the wall. So for example, that way tall people, nice and easy for them to put it over, but they got to crouch down to get back under. So you even out that way.
Squat less.
What's that?
I mean, short people get to squat less. So, I mean,
yeah.
So you can't like, I mean, I don't know. That would be hard. I mean, I guess I like the over idea, but I'm just thinking about how they would set that up. Like you would weave like a weaver kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I feel like, you know how like burpees are like Spartan, like Hyrox is like sleds. Yeah. That's like, when people think of Hyrox, they think of the sleds. So I just don't think they would ever get rid of those.
No, you're probably right. And I'm a fan of the tire flip or a pig flip or something like that. I like that one a lot. That one to me is very, very standard, very.
But again, super heavy.
Yeah,
I was actually really surprised in Europe that I had the fastest run time. I was like expecting them to be like, because a lot of them are pretty, like Viola is pretty small, like Rebecca is pretty small. I was expecting to like see some really fast runners. But I think the Linda girl that like skipped 2 laps, she's like a pretty good runner, but maybe not as good of a counter.
That's the best way to win, is to just run a shorter course.
Yeah, she actually realized, like, I think she was like, got into the rower and sat down, and she was like, oh shit, I skipped a lap. And she was going to get off the rower and go run another lap. And they said, no, you're already in the zone. Like you have to take the penalty. But she had skipped a lap also before burpees. So she had skipped 2 laps.
Yeah.
So
how did you find the competition? How, like, because now you're one of the few women who have been on both sides. How do you find the competition overseas compared to the American women?
You know, I was kind of like, I won't lie, I got wrecked in the sleds. I was like, I'm going to bust some ass in the sleds because they light sleds over here. And I'm like pushing it, and I'm like, oh man, they're not stopping. So it'll be interesting to see like overseas. Like I definitely think the sleds are lighter, but I feel like just by watching, you know, because I'm a total creeper, like all their training, I feel like there's a lot more emphasis on the strength stuff. I don't think many of the athletes in Europe have a super strong running background. Like I know Miriam's like a really big CrossFit athlete, and obviously she can run. She's kind of maybe like more of a Rachel Vondrock. Like she has a steady run base, but I don't see any of these people run. I'm like, man, how do these people run pretty well without running? It's just really bizarre to me. But I think the competition is going to be pretty good. I will be really disappointed if Chris doesn't make it into the top 15, because I think if she has a good race, like she could be like a top 5 contender. So it sucks. Like same thing with Dylan. Or I mean, Rich is sitting on number 15 right now, and there's still 3 more European races left. So you never know.
Let me stop you there for 1 sec. So only 1 European race is going to count, though.
What?
Yeah. So Dallas will be the last qualifier. So only London overseas will count towards this year's Vegas. And I've confirmed that many times. So that's
that's interesting, since they're all before. Like, why would you have some races that are qualifiers and some that are not? They're not making that very clear. Like I understand, like before, I mean, I'd heard somebody say that, oh, Los Angeles is a qualifier. And I was like, no, it's not. They already said that LA was out.
Yeah.
But I feel like if it's before, like if you have a race before London, then it should also count. But
I think
I probably want like a few weeks to like finalize the top 15. So if the 30th is going to be the last, I don't know. I don't like that. But so I was really expecting. I was going over the starting list for Dallas, and I thought that it would be really stacked because people trying to like last chance qualifier, but I didn't see like a lot of people that I know, and I looked up a couple people I had heard of, and it's like, oh, is this their first Hyrox? Like, but I'm actually really surprised that who was it? I was expecting to be in there. Oh yeah, Megita. I guess he's like doing the dad life thing, and because he was us, and I guess he's not going to race Vegas. He's going to take like this off, and then I heard Kent might come, but I got my notes here, so
there you go. There you go.
Our wagers appropriately because I had my top four. But I only saw four people but you never know. Like Hyrox is such like a new sport that you'll get people like Alondra Greenlee that won New York like 107 out of like nowhere. So you're like, I mean, and she's gonna be one to watch, man, in Vegas. I watched her run. It was kind of cool, like being a spectator for the pro event because you get to see like I will say thing though about my strict. I'm like super ADD with the way I talk. But their judges over there, no bullshit. Zero like I don't know if you heard about Viola was like crying all balls, like no rep, like they are not afraid to no rep you over there. Like I know I don't know why I do this, but with my burpees, a lot of the times my left shoulder I'll lay down, but my left shoulder, that's my right side. My left shoulder doesn't touch the ground, and I don't have an injury. I just like lay on my right really heavy, and they were like all the way to the floor. So I was like literally having to like, and I was like, all right. I mean, I like that. And they were on you. Like I know in a lot of the American races, I've seen people doing lunges, not touching their knees. Like, you know, I've seen the bullshit burpees where they're basically like jumping forward into their burpee, like nobody around. Like they were on everybody, at least the top. Because at the burpees, I think I was maybe like 6th or 7th or something like that. And they were not like letting anybody get away with anything, as it should be, like very, very strict.
Yeah, Viola came away from that event very displeased about the wall ball situation.
I always swear by the box, man.
Oh.
Nobody doing gets no reps because it's the standard. You touch the box. Then when you get tired, you just take a seat, you relax. I don't understand why people are so like adverse to the box, but
I don't know if you've been paying attention, but I have been selling your boxing. I've been saying, yeah, I'm now fully on board with Terra. I want the box or the bucket or whatever. I even sold it to Tobias.
Yeah, I mean, especially like, I mean, if you're tall, I mean, I think honestly, and this is maybe going to sound cheaty. I think that the box is higher than they were no repping Viola.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, I'd much rather see somebody sit to a box than to do some of that push press bullshit that you see in New York, where people are just barely bending their knees and it's zero squat whatsoever. Like some of the stuff I saw in New York, because I never get to watch the pro wave, was just a boorish. Like it was not even close to a squat. It's very disappointing to see people who like run the events, won't name any names, but are standing right there and watching them it and letting it go. Like, good job. I'm like, they're not even close to squatting. And these are people in the top, like the top 5 or 6 people. And I'm just like, this is kind of a joke. Like, it's the same thing that like gets me revved up about Spartan and their burpees. Like I just want the standards. I mean, there's only 8 things that need to be standardized. We got to get it together if we're going to have like a real sport. Otherwise, it's not a sport. So like, and you can't have world records and stuff like that if everybody isn't adhering to the same standards. Like that kind of stuff would never happen in CrossFit. Like I know that CrossFit is getting a lot of crap right now for the people, especially like the top people in the open, like little stuff like the Thor's daughter. No, Catherine, one of those daughters stepped over the bar instead of hopping, and she's getting a lot of clap back about that. Like, but nobody says anything about these push press wall balls and stuff.
I did.
So, I'm gonna say a lot about it because I don't like to watch it, because I'm like, wow, that girl just saved probably like a minute and a half. So I'm like tallying up the time in my head. I'm like, I mean, maybe that other girl should have won, like, or should have been in the top or whatever. So it's just, it has to be like standardized, or it's not going to be a real sport. And as we talked about before, I really hope that it catches on here. But like looking at the fall races right now, there's only 2. So I'm like, and I know that London is sold out. Like, so they're doing really well overseas. And maybe it's because people are like, oh yeah, they hold the standards here. This is a real sport. So
I think that's a great deduction. I'd go with that because I do watch, and that one of the reason I was selling Tobias on the bucket or the box for the wall balls was because he had to do an extra 15 reps of wall balls and he thought what's that?
He did 15 extra wall balls when he hit the record, or when he was in Carl's?
No, it was in Carlsberg. So the next one. So
okay, I was like, holy crap.
So he felt that was unfair.
If Kent would have ran that race in Maastricht, like he would have ran like a 55.
Yeah.
Like that would have been, I'm excited to see them race, because I think, not that I think Tobias is like a great athlete. It was really cool to see him finish, but like Kent is just on a whole nother level right now. And I think that, I mean, I'm calling it right now. Kent's the world champion, hands down. I think that he's going to just crush it. But we'll see.
I would tend to agree. The one I would worry about coming over from Europe is Miriam.
Oh, for the women?
Yeah. She's the one I think has a shot.
She's strong. Like, so I don't think that, I mean, I was before I got my head back in the game, was like really looking side to side for those sleds, and man, I think she pushed in like 3 flat, and she's small. I don't know if you could tell how small she was. She's about 5'1", 5'2", but she is thick, like built. She looks like a CrossFitter. So she's not going to have any kind of issue, I think, with the strength stations. I think that she'll keep up, and I think she's a competent runner. She's I don't know. I think she'll definitely be on the top. Maybe want some really long rock zones. I need all the running I can get.
I would have liked to have been able to see her and Lauren go head to head for this one.
Yeah, because they're 2 like completely different athletes. I think I'm trying to think, like, I always take out like pretty conservative. Like my runs are always pretty consistent. But man, people take out really fast. So I'm not really sure how like she came in the first couple runs, but Lauren takes out hot. Like she like takes it out from the start. So it'd be interesting to see, like, since Miriam's super young, if I know she's not as strong as a runner as Lauren. Well, Lauren, not 8 months pregnant. I don't know. Maybe Lauren, 4 months pregnant, still took out the race really fast from start to finish, just killed it. So I mean, there's rumors that she's going to race.
I
just don't want to somebody who's 8 months pregnant. I've experienced this before, and it's really not a good feeling. Girl in my running group, and we did a 5K together. She passed me in like the last 800, and she was like 9 months pregnant, and she gave birth. Like the race was on Saturday. She gave birth on Monday.
No.
She ran an 8:30 though. So, I mean, I was not like having a bad day. She's like an Olympic trials athlete, but still, I don't care. You have a belly that's like 3 feet. I don't want you to beat me. Like, I don't care who you are. So I really don't want to get beat by like an 8-month Lauren. So that'll be my goal if she races, to not get beat by her.
Just like trip her or something.
I think that would be very, very not looked happily upon. I don't think people like it when you trip pregnant people.
But think of the publicity for the sport.
The villain of like hybrid racing forever.
We
like
need
you're
that
that
guy.
Trip the pregnant lady. I don't want to be that. I might
be the Tanya Harding of hybrid.
Exactly. I don't want to be that. So I think I'll just try to outrun her. But she's too. So I heard you get like all kinds of good hormones and stuff when you're pregnant. So really it's like you're doping when you're pregnant. So really it's okay if I lose because they're getting like growth hormone and stuff from the baby.
They find actually, so right after having a baby too, because your blood levels are so much higher, there's more oxygen being delivered to your muscles and everything. So they do find there's this period of time after having a baby where you are kind of superhuman.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, growing a human is pretty superhuman. So hats off to her. I hope that she has like a quick, well, I kind of hope that she has like a quick bounce back. Maybe it would be nice if she could let me, because every race that I've ran, she's been there except my strict. So she's like looming over me, and she's in my age group. So she takes my sweatshirts and. You know.
I still think that if you win the podium, you shouldn't be age group. If you're on the podium, you should just get, the top 3 should be out of the age group.
And we should get sweatshirts. I get, and I don't get a sweatshirt because Lauren takes my age group. It's just not fair. But it's okay. It's okay. Yeah, but I agree with you. I think if you get an overall podium, I don't understand why there's like you also get age group podium. But
it's the German way.
And then I could be sold on you getting like a master's podium, because that's pretty badass if you can podium overall when you're over 40.
Yeah.
But
so we got to move on.
Okay, we're moving.
We're moving. Although we were going to do some stuff for Dallas, but like you say, there's not a lot of people going to Dallas, or not a big thing, because
there's 4 men and 4 women. And maybe Dallas. 3 people that we. So the men, Dylan's going to take it. He's fit, right? Him and Rich are going to battle it out, and then Cole take 3rd, and then Sam Tooley's actually running individual at this race. So I think he could probably maybe run like a 107, 108.
That's not bad.
So he'll pull in like the top 5. But I know he's doing like doubles in Vegas with his partner, and they did really well in New York.
Yeah.
I think they might have broken an hour, which is pretty good. And then the women, I heard Katie Knight might run.
I did hear that as well.
But Chris, Camilla, Lauren, and Heather are running. So, which, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how Camilla races, because she came back from like some kind of surgery, and she ran open in New York. I think she ran like a 108. So
okay.
Our training has been now, but I mean, she went 110 in Chicago, so she obviously has like the ability to run if the course is fast, like sub 110.
And you say Chris is going, because I thought Chris was going to be doing doubles at this one.
No, I think Chris is doing both.
Oh, okay.
She's definitely doing individual though, but I think her and her partner might do both, which I think is a total mistake if she does do both, because individual is 2nd and she is not in the top 15 right now. So she needs because she's not one that'll like be like me when I ran with Dylan and basically just run. So she'll probably do half the work too, and that'll just like kill her for she's superhuman, but I mean, to run a 109, sub 109 on an American course is also pretty superhuman. So we'll hopefully she and plus I think they're going to take top, so they'll do 15, and then they said they'll do 2 roll down if like 2 people can't come or whatever. So she's still in that top 17. I think she's like 16th right now. So but it'll be interesting to see. I don't know, like the European athletes that could maybe I'll have to look at like some of the London races, like if they're historically like fast or slow, but I'm not 100% sure on that one.
The UK, I mean, you're looking at like Dina Hogan and Jade Skillen. I don't think they'll have the numbers to get on the board unless they get a really fast course.
Well, that's what I meant, the course, not the people.
Yeah.
Like, because if they have a course like Madrid, you know, who knows?
Yeah.
Like, and you don't know like what European athletes that are right on the cusp that'll travel to London to do that race. So if you get a really fast course, you could, you know, potentially have maybe 1 or 2 people that sneak back up into the top 15 before Vegas.
Yeah, it'll be crazy, but we do have to get to something because
Moving on.
we have to get to Spartan Games.
Spartan Games.
Because
Yay.
that's what's going on right now, and that's what everybody's talking about. And well, I don't know, Beth. We'll let you. You want to start with the Spartan Games? You did get to see them, right?
Yeah, I did watch them while I was on vacation. Well, yeah, the first episode, nothing really happened. It was just kind of the rundown. Yeah.
Like a trailer.
And then the second episode, so it started off with a Deca Heavy. Now they change the Deca Heavy all the time, right?
So okay. So Deca Heavy, yeah, is not, it's really nothing like Deca Strong or any. The only thing that it has in common is it uses machines and has 10 stations. But it's basically, we'll just like put 10 stations. So
whatever they feel like doing at the time.
Like doing I think from what I heard, like it was a lot more challenging than last year. Like the stations, I think last year the event only took like 6 or 7 minutes for the top. So obviously it was a lot longer, which makes it more aerobic, which I think was the theme of the whole Spartan game. They're not to spoil anything, but not a whole lot of strength going on in the rest of the competition. So it was definitely more aerobic based. But I'm glad there was no like 5 or 6 hour like ordeals like last year. I was actually told that before, because if it would have been that, I might not have wanted to go. I was like, there's no like 6 hour bike, is there? Because that's just not really my cup of tea. But it was you started the first 5 stations with a vest, and then the rest were without. And then they didn't obviously do the course before they like let us go try the course. So they had started the sleds with actually more weight. But then they were like, oh yeah, these sleds don't move very fast on this grass because it's really holy and they get stuck in the grass. So let's take some weight off of it. And they clearly didn't push the sleds before because I don't know. I'm sure you heard that Lindsay was like, oh, well, it took Meg 4.5 minutes. So then she made her decision off of how long it took Meg, which if she would have went first, she wouldn't have had, like, the people who went first didn't get that chance to make the decision. Like they didn't know how long the sled was going to take. So that was like really like, I didn't like that. Is there going to be other events? Like I know you heard Tim complain about like the next event. If you missed something, you couldn't, you were out for the whole thing. And where I get like, they're like, oh, we want to adhere to the standards. They didn't adhere to the standards at all when it came to the swim. Like the swim is like not in a 35-degree lake. You don't pull a rope on the bottom instead of swim. Like you didn't even have to swim. You like pulled the rope on the bottom from buoy to buoy. So they made us stand out there while they talked to us in the water. And I was so cold, I couldn't breathe. Like I was like gasping. So when I went underwater, I like almost immediately came up again because I just couldn't, like I couldn't hold my breath because I couldn't breathe because it was so cold. So you weren't
actually swimming. You were pulling yourself with a rope.
The underwater swim. Yeah. Because the water was murky that you couldn't see. So, and the currents were so strong because the wind was blowing really hard that like there would be no way you could swim buoy to buoy without like a guide. So there was no swimming, and well, the 500-meter swim was a swim, but the underwater swim was totally not a swim. It was a pull a rope underwater and keep your head down under the water until you get to the end of the rope. So when they're like adhering to the standards, they weren't adhering to the standards at all. So that was the only event that I failed, was the underwater swim, because I couldn't breathe. And so I got 0 points for the whole event because I couldn't do nothing that was part of the actual test. Because the actual test is supposed to be a 25-meter swim underwater in a pool where you get to kick off of the. So I can do that. You can see, like, you can actually swim, like you can breathe because the water's not like 30 degrees. So I was a little salty, and I was coming off of being salty from the Deca Heavy because I lost to Lindsay by 1 second because I pushed the sled instead of skipping the sled. So because that was, in my mind, that was my event. I was like, oh yeah, this is my event. And I wore the wrong shoes. Like, obviously there was a good video of me like just falling on my face, which I did multiple times because the grass was so wet. So retrospect, I should have skipped the sled, but they kind of hyped me up too. They were like, you're not going to skip the sled, are you? Like, you know, you're going to do it, right? And I was like, yeah, I'm going to do the sled. And then when I started the sled, I was like, damn it, I should have touched the sled. I kept going. So they got me a little like too hyped, and I made a not so rational decision, but it's fine. It was not what I expected, but the altitude was also a pretty big, like, I'm coming from sea level, so I think we were like 8,000 feet up there. So it's definitely already harder to breathe. I got really bad altitude sickness when I was there. All I had, basically, I think I had maybe like 1,000 calories a day. I was like drinking Gatorade and eating like gummy bears, like trying to get calories in, and which is weird because I've never got altitude sickness before, except when I've been on like 14ers, and I was like, this is crap. Like, I can't eat anything. And so that definitely didn't help, but all these excuses.
I'm kind of got a few things, so I'm just trying to figure out where to begin.
What part of my rant you want to address first?
Actually, your rant seems really spot on, but I just have questions. So one of the things that caught me, obviously, like, was the poor setup on the swim, right? Like, that's one thing right out of the bat, is like they were saying Kent got a 30-second penalty for kicking off the bottom.
The water was so shallow, like if you stood up in the water, like you were barely waist deep.
Yeah.
If you had arms, you could probably like crawl on the bottom of the water. It was so shallow. And it was like hard to, because it was so windy, like you were getting blown like everywhere. So I mean, he might have had, because you were allowed to stand up, which again, you're not able to do in the military test. You can't just stand up in the middle of the water and take a break. That's not allowed.
Or possible.
Anyways, yeah, so yeah, Kent did get a penalty because I think when he might have stood up and then he kind of pushed forward into the water. But I think he won the swim. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't think he was like, I don't know that it helped him that much.
He won the overall event, but Hunter actually had the fastest swim.
Okay.
But what I didn't get from it is, one, was just stupid because everybody, I like you say, everybody's feet is going to hit the ground. That was just crazy. But now I listened to, I believe it was Matt interview the WAD doc, and he said that they were told if they kicked off the ground or whatever, that they would be DQ'd.
I don't recall that. I wouldn't be surprised because Spartan's like notorious for like changing rules on the fly. I felt like there was another instance, and it might come to me in a second, that they changed something on the fly, but the sleds they changed. But that wouldn't surprise me because I know he was saying like he didn't want to do the swim because the conditions were really bad. Yeah. And I think they did the women like they showed the women first in the show, but the men went first, and the men came back, and they were just like to see Ryan Adkins look like he is suffering is scary, because I'm like, oh my God, if Ryan Adkins is showing any like sign of weakness because he's like a monster, I'm gonna die out in that water. But it's crazy. The crew, I was so impressed. Like, I almost feel like bad complaining so much, because those people who were the crew were standing out there the whole time. Maybe they had better gear than me or something, but I don't know how they did it. And they weren't complaining like me. I like to complain. But they were some troopers out there standing in the water. So it was really scary to watch the men come back, and they look like they're just like about to die. And then you're like, oh, you're next. I'm like, oh no. And like, I was still in it at that point. So I was like, well, I have to go do it. I have to try. And so, because I think there was only like 4 of us. Yeah, I was the last one that got out. So there was just Corinna, Lauren, and Lindsay were in. So I could have got some good points if I would have been able to get under the water, but it just didn't happen.
One of the other things that caught me in that, and I liked that whole concept, the past, the physical assessment, something test, whatever. Anyway.
Yeah.
I like the concept. Another thing that's come up as is quality and form of reps on push-ups and whatnot. And so my first question to you about it is, did they make it clear what the rep standards were before you did the event?
Yes, they did. But again, it's like with the judging, like you have a judge. So like, it's very up to interpretation, I guess. Like, I don't think the standard was up to interpretation. And plus, I think you have these people that are judging. A lot of them were military, but like, maybe they don't follow Spartan, maybe they do. But are you going to give like Ryan Atkins a no rep?
Hell
like he's
yeah.
Ryan. But like, like, I don't know. Like, I don't know who was doing bad push-ups. I don't remember.
It doesn't matter. That part doesn't matter. It's just what was the standard they gave you guys? Like, for example, on the pull-ups, what was the standard for the pull-up?
You had to go all the way down to full extension and chin over bar. I think the push-ups, your elbows had to like cross the plane of your back, and you couldn't rest. So you could put your butt up in the air, you could like put one arm up or whatever, but your knees couldn't touch the ground. And then the sit-ups, I think you just had to come all the way up and go all the way down. I don't think there was like a big standard for that. I think the big issue was the push-ups, though, from what I heard. So, I mean, that's another thing like we talk about, I swear, all the time. It's just like standardizing stuff.
So then with the pull-ups, you could rest on the bar. So as soon as you came off your reps, we're done.
Yep, you're done. So you had 2 minutes. I think it was like, men and women's standard was the same. It was like 10 pull-ups, maybe 40 push-ups, and 50 sit-ups or something like that. So like the men would have, and I didn't hear about the women bad form.
It wasn't as bad, not that we saw.
Because obviously we follow the rules, but like obviously it wouldn't be hard for any of those men to do 40 push-ups. So I think it's just at the speed at which they do them. Like they were probably like, but if somebody tells you good, you're going to keep going. Like I think we talked about last time how somebody was doing wall balls, and they were like, they went to a depth that is acceptable to the judge and kept going. And I'm like, that's a weird statement to make, like, because it shouldn't be the depth that's acceptable. It's like, she's just doing the wall balls, or they're just doing the push-ups to the standard, not that's like acceptable to that specific judge. So I don't know how they standardize it in the military, if they're like better about it or what, but typical Spartan fashion that it's not standardized correctly in the games.
This is where sometimes I get surprised, because Yancey has a good head on his shoulders about stuff like this. But
And I look like
I think he gets trumped. I think he gets overruled in these things and is just like pushed to the side.
because Yancey's about the sport. Like he's not, I mean, he's also like he's a hype man for sure. Like he's like a cheerleader, but he's also about the integrity of the actual sport because he wants it to be a real sport. Like he's like all in. And I think that there's not a whole lot of that in like the rest of the community. Like it's just more of like a money making business. And, you know, the sport is like secondary to the business. So that's just is what it is. I don't know. Maybe I haven't been to like a series race. Maybe they like judge better there or whatever. But by that pace, I don't guess they judge better there. I don't see many people doing burpees at I think they should just go to the penalty laps. They did a lot of penalty laps, I guess, in slow, easy to standardize. You just run the lap and then that's it.
The problem with that is the building of the lap, because sometimes they make the laps shorter than the obstacles.
Well, that's building problem. Like that's not like a judge issue. I feel like that would be your problem to consistently fix. Be to find like judges who will, because I also don't like the idea of people doing burpees and then be penalized afterwards.
Yeah.
Like I think that penalties should be assessed there. You should get no rep and you should continue going until you complete your amount of burpees and then you should go. Because I mean, it's just so up to interpretation after that. Like you can get, I don't know, maybe I told you about this before, but I got disqualified in a race in Charlotte because of my burpee form. And I have never in my life been penalized for burpees. But I was watching the video and I will admit my burpees were not vertical. But there was a video of Ryan Woods doing burpees at the same race where he was assessed the 0 penalties. And the girls in the video who were also doing burpees were not vertical either. So, and I was told verbatim that by Robert Coble that their burpees are more vertical than your burpees. And I was like, well, none of them are vertical, so we all should just be disqualified. And that was not the case. So I was just like, that was at the point where I'm like, I'm never like investing actual money into Spartan, but if I can race for free, then I'll do it, because I don't want to invest money into a company anymore that is like not consistent with their rules. They're not consistent with the sport. They don't really care about the athletes. There's favoritism, like, and I'm just going to end up leaving the race like very disappointed and angry, like I did that day. I was very upset, and I was just like, because I had won too. So you have this great, like, I win, and then they're like, and then the injustice of like, because if other people would have been disqualified, not that I'm like petty or anything like that, then I've been like, okay, well, we all did bad burpees and they're adhering to the standards and this is good. So we all get disqualified. Totally fine. But like, you know, when there's some sense of like unfairness, and then I'm just like, just because I feel like Robert Coble for some reason doesn't like me. And I don't know why somebody wouldn't like me, but he's always been out for me. Like, I don't know what his deal is, but he doesn't like me very much. So I don't know if is he still doing Spartan? Like, I haven't done a Spartan race, and I guess I did Abu Dhabi, but before that, I did, my last one was in Palm Beach, which they still haven't paid me for. So, so I'm on the train, the Nick Riker train. He got paid, which is really good. So I'm just gonna keep like hounding them. Now they're ignoring me again, so we're on the ignore train. Maybe I'll get blocked soon. Who knows? But I'm just like, it's only $600. Like, I mean, that's like nothing, Joe DeCina. Like, you're like throwing that to the wind with all kinds of stuff that you do. Just send me my check. But
there's our episode title. Terra Jackson, send me my check.
Send me my, because I mean, racing is expensive. So like it's nice when you can go and you break even. Like I'm not trying to make money or anything like that, but I'm just like, man, it's nice to go and like do a race and not like go in the hole like $1,000. So you're like, man, if I could get some of this money back, that'd be awesome. I could go do another race and re-roll that back into your business. Like, because I love Hyrox. Like they pay you in a timely manner. They mostly are standardized except for the wall balls. I mean, we're getting there. Maybe we could be where Europe is in like the next year or so. They also had a significant amount of more volunteers.
Yeah.
Or staff or whatever. Like there were people at every station. Like it seemed very professionally run. So
even on the videos, like I said, when I saw Viola run into the wall balls, there must have been 3 people there watching her like a hawks. And yeah, it definitely is a very different setup over there, and they seem to have it right. I have one more question, and I found this interesting about the Spartan Games. So the pass test was for the Air Force Special Forces, right?
Yes.
And 2, there was a female and a male competitor, both from the Air Force in the competition, right?
Yes.
And neither of them got through the pass test.
I don't even think they were really that close. I'm not sure where. I know they both failed to run.
Yeah.
I'm not sure else they failed, but I know the girl Ariel was like coming off some kind of back injury, but I don't know about. And plus the run, I'm not sure what the standardization for this normal run is, but I don't know if it's 8,000 feet with like rolling hills either. I'm pretty sure it's on a track, but like this was a long course. I'm like, I don't know. I like, again, if you're going to have standards, like actually adhere to the standards that you set them, like, so it's not that hard to adhere to your own standards, but
they had to Spartan it up.
It's very hard to adhere to your own rules, I guess. And one thing I've heard people talking about too is I was actually really disappointed at the production of the actual show. Like the trailer and stuff was badass. I was like, wow, this is like really professional and like really cool. But then like they put it together in like a way that like when you're watching it, you don't know who's like winning, or you don't know like what's really going on. And it was hard for me to tell like who did all their push-ups and stuff. I didn't know who failed. I didn't know who really failed the run. And it was very like to be about a competition, it didn't really highlight the actual competition. If that makes sense. Like it wasn't very.
I remember when I was watching the DECA heavy stuff, the only way I could tell who was leading was you could see in the background the person that they were racing against. You could kind of tell who was ahead.
Yeah, but you could only tell for the heat. So like,
yeah.
I don't know. I think it would have been cool if they would have had everybody race together. I know that would have been logistically a lot harder. But and two, like it. I mean, this is totally about me, but I was like, man, they didn't even put me finishing. I wasn't that far behind. Like they like cut off. Like when Corinna finished, it was like, oh, well, we're all done now. Like I was like, well, I wasn't that far behind Corinna. Like it's like I must have finished like a day behind her or something. Cool. Thanks.
You got in there with Corinna, and they're like, oh, I
know. Said Corinna. I was like, dang it. Like, I mean, I just didn't want to be against Lauren or Corinna, and Corinna was really the one I didn't want to be against because she's like a beast, and I thought that was going to be her event. And did Lauren win or did she win?
Lauren won.
I really watched it. I swear that I watched it. I can't remember, but they were really close. I think that they were within like not very many seconds of each other. So we'll see. Hopefully they do a little bit better on the video side of things. But the next couple, like the marathon is like not very spectator, it's not a very spectator sport. And I think Spartan Cross will be on the next one. So I think Spartan Cross and the marathon, half marathon.
And it'll already have aired by the time we put this out. So
I thought it airs Thursday. Oh, this goes out.
Like,
Okay.
either Thursday later or Friday.
Well, apparently Matt's already watched it, right?
Yeah.
Okay. It's leaks.
It's awesome. All right. Well, I think that's good for tonight. Beth, why don't you take us home?
Yeah, thanks so much, Tara, for joining us. Always a pleasure talking to you. We love to hear your side of the story. So we'll be chatting with you again soon, I bet.
Thanks.
One more thing we did forget. I forgot because I need to do it. Is again, we're sponsored by Duonamic, and Duonamic is going to send you a door frame pull-up system.
Oh,
as a thank you for being a guest on the show. And yeah, I forgot to do that at the beginning, so I'll do it now.
awesome. That's cool. And then I didn't get on a tangent, so we didn't talk for another half hour.
Thanks so much, Terra.
Thanks, Dave.
Hey, bye.